Hello and welcome to the York Creators Podcast. My name is Ben Porter, and each week you can join me as I chat to someone from York's creative community. This week's guest is Drew Wintie-Hawkins. Drew is the co-director of York Dance Space, an arts organisation set up to develop dance across York and North Yorkshire. With a background as a performer himself, he takes a hands-on approach to developing learning programmes in dance, supporting the development of professional artists across the region. In this episode we chat about the risks him and his wife Hannah took in setting up their own place, how skills learnt in dance can be used both in education and in wider life, and how getting out of your bubble and collaborating with other organisations will improve your art and the community as a whole. Drew, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So what is York Dance Space and how did it come to be?
So York Dance Space, we started it nearly 2 years in August. We originally were based in London, me and my wife that is. We trained as professional dancers and danced professionally for so many years. And Hannah, my wife, is originally from York. So we sort of thought, right, we want our own organisation, we want our own studio space. So we decided to move to York and then put the money we did have into opening studio space, really. And then from that, we sort of wanted to build quite a large learning and outreach sort of programme to start with. So we engage through classes, but also community projects as well, trying to engage as many people as we can through dance. And now we're starting to actually support professional dance artists as well.
Cool.
So making York a place where dance can be created, dance can be seen. So just trying to develop dance really across York and North Yorkshire.
So what's your background as a dancer? Where did you train?
So my background, I started a long time ago. Started when I was 8 years old, originally musical theatre. So I actually went to theatre school, went to Silver Young Theatre School. And then from there, I decided I didn't want to do musical theatre, even though I had professional experience as well when I was younger, and went just into dance. So I then went to the Brit School, which was in Croydon, which was great. And then I decided to focus mainly on contemporary dance. So I went to London Contemporary Dance School after that, where I met my wife, Hannah.
Nice. What do you think it was that drew you to dance at that age?
Originally, I only actually started because I was really shy.
Okay.
So my mum sort of said, right, let's take you to drama classes. Let's get into something, see if I can start to build up some confidence. And then from there, I just absolutely loved it. So yeah, and then I've done nothing else since. So I didn't have any other choice to do anything else.
Cool. So you never tried like painting or singing or things like that?
Well, I have actually. I've done labouring and stuff sometimes when I wasn't dancing professionally. But yeah, I wasn't necessarily great at that.
So looking back on your life and career and things like that, what do you think are some of the key moments that sort of pushed you to where you are today?
Certainly having early professional experience as a kid was really valuable. So I was in the West End in various shows. So immediately I saw what the business was like, and that certainly focused on that's where I sort of wanted to go. Also, I think certainly training at London Contemporary Dance School, I then sort of found out what type of artist I was and what my skill set was and what I'm really interested in. And then that sort of shift of dancing professionally, which even though I still love performing, the actual struggles of being a professional dance artist are really hard because funding, also dance isn't necessarily well paid either. So I worked a lot in opera, for instance, and sometimes even the biggest opera companies pay really badly. So I sort of said, right, I don't necessarily want to do this. I want to actually see if I can create our own organisation where we can support dance artists in a good way as well. And I give them a space where they can really be creative in their own way, instead of actually then thinking, no, you've got to channel it into an organisation deciding to make them a type of artist, really.
Sure. So what do you guys offer that wasn't already available in York?
Quite a lot, because when we first came, mainly because of Hannah being originally from York, she sort of then thought, right, there was very little dance provision. Although there was quite a lot of private dance schools, which are great, they sort of engage with a lot of people. It's very much selling sort of a syllabus and selling a certain way of training. And we're certainly wanting to build the curiosity of moving, really, and open up creativity for young people and adults, to be honest.
So tell me about the logistics of actually opening a place, because that must be pretty difficult.
Yeah. Funding to start with. So yeah, as I said, luckily we did have some savings behind us and we decided to put it into a dance space instead of buying our own house. But yeah, that was quite a choice. But we're really, I mean, it's great that me and Hannah work together. So we sort of both obviously have that shared interest. And we just thought, well, this is what we love doing. We might as well put it into something we actually love doing. And then from there, we then, had to find a commercial place, which again was a struggle actually, because we wanted to be close to the city centre. But then we also wanted to be part of a community. So that's why we are on 5th Avenue in Tang Hall. And certainly it's great to be in an area which is a low engagement area. Also, it's a really diverse area. So we get to come across lots of different types of backgrounds of different people, which is great.
So what do you get out of it then? Like, because obviously to run your own business, it takes quite a lot of time, energy and effort and things like that. And everybody gets days where you just think like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. But then, what is it that keeps you going?
Young people is a lot. We do a huge education and outreach program. So we work in schools. Certainly the way funding is now, actually funding pure dance is very difficult. Whereas I think actually there's a lot of skill sets which dance artists have where people can use those skills to actually learn. And certainly way education is really stripped away of the arts. I think certainly when we go into schools and then offer an opportunity where kids can interact and engage physically, really has a value in education. Also, we have to create stuff all the time. To sort of be a business owner, you have to be creative to make it successful. So although, yes, I may not be creating my own dance work as such, but I'm also still being able to have those creative thoughts and those creative processes by running a business.
So what do you look for in people that are dancing? What separates a good dancer from a bad dancer for you?
That's a big question. It varies, to be honest. It really varies. Certainly presence, being really connected to their human self, for me, is really important. I mean, I still think that some people who have had no dance training at all can sometimes be the best dancers. Just because they have a huge amount of life experience and you can see that as a person performs. So I'm certainly more interested in that side of stuff than necessarily someone holding their leg up by their ear. So yeah.
What would be a tip that you'd give to kind of an everyday person to improve their dancing?
I think the main thing is just to do it. I think a lot of the time people, thoughts get in the way and they start with, it knocks their confidence and thinking, but really dancing is just moving. We move every day, so everyone can dance. There's no one out there who can't dance. It's just then certain styles and how marketing TV programs suggest that no, dance is only a certain thing, whereas actually dance is movement. That's all it is.
What's some bad advice that you hear dance teachers give out?
Oh, okay. I think the problem is that there's a lot of dance training which is very focused and very one-dimensional, and certainly, again, coming back to the funding issue, that there's not really one way of training anymore. And certainly, I think it is valuable to really connect on who you are as a human being and how you move and have that curiosity of movement sort of across European programs of training. They get to work with dance artists for 2-3 weeks at a time, so they get to have different experiences with different artists. So they're not then focused just with one faculty the whole time. And that's certainly, as an organisation, we try to really create. So certainly for our youth company, for instance, York Youth Dance, we try to bring in as many practitioners as we can. So those young people can have a lot of different experiences with different people. And also then they can decide what area really interests them. Because whereas what we may like, that doesn't matter. It's what that individual really sees and what they get excited about. Which certainly I think a lot of organisations need to keep remembering.
So tell me about some of the projects that you've got coming up.
Projects coming up, so doing a big community project in Tang Hall at the moment, which is funded by big local lottery from Tang Hall Big Local. So we're working with the composer John Hughes. He is originally from York University, did his PhD there, but he's composed a lot of different music for different dance artists. What he decided to do is we took a map of the area and then we put it into a grid, and then through rolling dice we have selected 65 different points at random. So from those 65 points, there has been random time generated to then go and record those points through sound. So when we've been there, we've met different people because it's just been by chance. We've met one guy, Graham, who's been selling ice cream for 41 years in Tang Hall.
Cool.
So things like that has been really great. So we've been able to connect through the community by literally just doing these recordings by random chance. And then from that, we're working with 2 schools, Osbaldwick and St Elred's, working with 2 classes from each school. And then adults and families as well. So there's a cast of 65, and then that dance piece will premiere part of Great Yorkshire Fringe on the 21st of July.
Nice. So if we look at the wider creative scene in York, what do you think people are doing well? What do you think could be better?
I think the media side of stuff, certainly in York, is great. Different organisations can work better together. I think a lot of things people are doing individually, I think a little bit in their own bubble, because things get so busy and you can be so focused on yourself that you sort of forget about actually what's in the bigger picture. Also, I think the way, again, coming back to that word funding again, people think they try to do everything themselves. And sometimes some of the stuff they do, they're not necessarily best at. So I think there's people across the city who are brilliant at what they do and could really be valued to be able to then come together and collaborate over a project, instead of just thinking, oh yeah, I can just do that as well. Actually then thinking, right, who's really good at working with film, who's really good at making music, and all of those sort of things.
Yeah, so how do we connect those people up? Is it more networking events? Is it some kind of newsletter?
Yeah, certainly network events. Also trying to just take that brave step of out of your own bubble, really, and just sort of go and see things and go and connect, because as artists anyway, you still have a curiosity of how things are made and all those things anyway. It's hard at times because people are tired and they're busy and they're doing that, but yeah, I think it's really interesting, and you grow as an artist as well. I mean, certainly artists who, I get a lot more excited at seeing other people's art and other people's work than necessarily just go and see loads of dance, because I've seen loads of it and I've been around it all the time.
What's inspiring you at the moment then?
And what's inspiring me at the moment? I'm really interested in sort of physical theatre, actually. Connection of theatre and dance, but not necessarily the sort of put together physical theatre and what you think it is. Actually, how dance and how movement can really create theatre. Again, I think it comes back to that thing. A lot of theatre practitioners think, they can do the movement side of it. But it takes a real skill to have a movement director and who's trained all their time to sort of do that. I'm quite interested in that sort of area of things, really. Gecko Theatre, I absolutely love to pieces. Amit, who's the artistic director, is just brilliant, the stuff he does. Mainly because I think creating a piece of work where all areas, be it set design, be it music, be it lighting, be it the theatre, be it the dance, everything comes together as one to really tell the story and have that audience engagement, really. So yeah, for me, probably Gecko at the moment.
So looking to the future, where would you like to take the dance space? What's the vision?
Yeah, so in the future, we're in the process of writing a bid to support 6 dance artists, 3 in quite a big way over 12 months. In partnership with Your Theatre Royal. So with that, we will give them mentorship, we'll give them rehearsal space, we'll give them a fee to make work. Also, from that, they'll then perform at York Theatre Royal, but we've got a partner at Helmsley Arts Centre as well. So we think it's quite valuable for an artist to see what it is to take a work and put it obviously in a city venue, but it's very different to take it in a rural setting. So to see the challenges and to see actually where your work sits, because some artists sometimes really connect to a rural audience, for instance, whereas sometimes it will be better in other areas. So that's sort of where we're interested in. And it's a new thing of us producing artists, really. So our skills of developing that and seeing what we can really add to the development of an artist is really interesting. But in a way of not necessarily shaping them in what we think they should be, sort of allowing them to develop and thinking, right, what can our skills really add to that and support them.
What would your dream project be?
Dream project. I think the main thing I would like to do is to sort of manage 6 artists in quite a intense way, but be it through outreach as well, so how they can really connect with different community groups, be it young people, but also create professional work as well. But it's not sacrificed in any way of that, it's a totally separate thing. Again, I think sometimes the way arts projects are structured, they sort of tag on an outreach thing because they think, oh, it's a good tick box to have, whereas actually it could have a massive value and really reflect back onto the work, because to see on how certain community groups or young people engage with that work is really interesting, because that can then inform on the choices made by a choreographer or by a director, instead of sort of just being sheltered very much, this is the piece I'm making, and not being connected to who's it for.
What's something you've learned recently that you wish you knew 5 years ago?
Oh, something I've learned recently. Take some time for myself at times. Yeah, I've sort of always thought that just keep going. And sometimes it's really good to sort of take a step back and sort of, it's okay to sort of analyse your own stuff and say if it's not very good at times, or if, vice versa, if it's really good, instead of just thinking, right, next thing, go on to it. So I've certainly learnt that.
Yeah, I get that quite a lot too. I heard a good quote recently, which is, you can't be all output and no input.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
reminded me, like, oh yeah, always trying to put stuff out, always trying to do another project.
Yeah.
You just end up making the same thing if you don't have any new inspiration.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
you have to block out time for that.
Yeah.
But it's hard though, isn't it? Because you put a bit of time in the diary for that, and then someone asks you, "Can you come and do this?" And it's like, yeah, I'll just get rid of that time for me. But,
well, certainly us at the moment, like we took on so many projects at once, expecting that not necessarily all of them are going to happen. But now all of them are happening. So yeah, you're sort of now thinking, right, how do you juggle that? Does that sacrifice actually what certain projects are? And some of them we are creative, we're creating them ourselves because we do obviously create work as well. So you sort of then think, right, is it the best interest to then sort of say, right, maybe that project we shouldn't be doing because that is going to then affect the others.
What's something you've learned from dancing that you apply to your everyday life?
Problem solving, really, I think. Certainly working together as people, being able, even physically being able to work out how things work sometimes in choreography is everyday life. That's what you have to do. Yeah. Physically being able to then think, right, how can I do this is really needed. We have conversations all the time, certainly with how education is, and dance as a GCSE or A-level is being shoved aside. But people don't actually see the value of what it can do to your life. So yeah, okay, you may not be the next dancer, but to actually have those skills and that curiosity of being able to have that engagement with yourself physically is really, really needed. And certainly when I've worked in Scandinavia and places like that, where a totally different education system, where that is allowed to happen from a very young age and carries all the way through, it's a totally different feeling, and how people communicate, how people are confident, all those things. So yeah, it's definitely needed.
So if someone's watching this and they've maybe always wanted to try dancing but never had that confidence, what would you say to them?
Just go and do it. Go to a class.
That can be a scary thing for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. It can. I think the biggest thing is what they expect that class to be. And certainly, so for us, we still struggle as well, because people don't necessarily understand what we are as an organisation. They still think that we've got a uniform. They still think we do a specific type of dance. We do this, we do that. And we do creative dance. That's pretty much what we do. So yes, there's taught technique, there's stuff like that, but it's all about really bringing out you as an individual and how you move. And certainly sort of our over 55s dance company, for instance, which is a real diverse mix of people with different abilities and different experiences. So we've got some people who have had 30-year dance careers and have danced at the very top. Other people who started dancing 3 months ago. So there's such a different range of people and different levels of mobility and movement and things like that. So being able to set up an environment where people can have just as much interest of moving a little finger as deciding to throw yourself around the room is really important. And doing that through improvisation, do it through creating a space where people can talk about it, and it's okay if you don't like it, say it. Because then you sort of at least you've tried it, and then you turn around and think, right, yeah, I don't like that. But then unpick it and say, why don't you like it? And then from that, you start to grow this confidence through movement.
So if people want to find out more, maybe they're interested in taking a class, what's the best way to get in touch?
So they can look on our website, yorkdancebase.com, or they can go on our Facebook page, all updates on that. We do loads of different projects all the time, so we usually have funding from different things and different initiatives of how to people involved. We're in the process of trying to put in a bid together for a big project across York, involving a wide amount of people, looking for about 200 people if the funding comes off. So yeah, there's certainly opportunities to be able to get involved.
Cool, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Great, well thank you for being on the podcast.
No worries, thanks.